Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of First and 15 Fantasy Football Podcast. We will be continuing our injury outlook and insight into the AFC South. Last episode, we covered the Tennessee Titans. Now we're going to get into the Houston Texans. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe as we continue to provide you with the most effective strategies and insight for your upcoming draft and season. Well, let's jump right in. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I couldn't be more excited about the season. I wake up in the morning, I turn on the TV, and the first thing that's on there is football. It's fantastic. The training camp is upon us. Season is about to start. News is breaking. Updates is coming through. And, a lot of things are going to happen when this next month and leading up to the preseason and into the season. So it's always a good thing to always stay up to date. Guys, I'm Carlos, and so what we're going to do is we're going to actually get into the Houston Texans, and we're going to be looking kind of into their injury outlook from last year, seeing if it's going to be affecting them this year, and more specifically kind of looking to the insight into what we predict is going to happen this year, more specifically with the news of John Metchie, and then kind of what was going to shake up in that wide receiver group, and then also with the addition of, some key elements. So let's get right into it. The Houston Texans did have a 4-13 record overall. They're going to be in kind of a rebuilding phase, specifically kind of building off of the progression from last year. You're going to have your first-time head coach for the Texans, not, first-time head coach in the NFL, but Lovie Smith. We're going to see if he can kind of bring his overall experience and veteranness into this club and culture and ultimately change kind of what was already there previously. They've got a first-time offensive coordinator as well. He's had previous seasons with the Texans as a passing game coordinator and as well as a quarterback's coach, and he's going to actually be having the reins as a first-time offensive coordinator. So a lot of key moving pieces, specifically for these Houston Texans. They're going to be adding some key additions to their running back position. That's going to be looking different from last year. You're going to be having the news of John Metchie. If you haven't heard already, John Metchie did, have a diagnosis of a form of leukemia. Prayers going up for him and his condition. Hopefully has a speedy recovery, but that's going to kind of shake up the wide receiver core as well. And so we're going to look to see, as training camp unfolds, and as the season progresses and as practices, go on, who are the key wide receivers, who are the key running backs that are going to step up, and then lead this team for this coming season. But without going into further detail, let's get into kind of Davis Mills first, and what he brought to this team last year and what he's going to kind of bring to this team this year. Davis Mills was able to stay, relatively healthy last year. Obviously, he had some healthy scratches. He only played in 13 games last year. Him being his, in his rookie season, he was coming in and out of the, lineup, considering kind of the quarterback changes that were happening last year. But he was able to find a consistent, constant groove, and specifically with, Brandon Cooks, his kind of favorite receiver last year. And then you kind of see some splashes of Nico Collins within the kind of last tail end of the season itself. Davis Mills, again, only had, 263 attempts or completions at 2,664 yards. He did add 18 rushes at 44 yards, so not too many, points there, with the rushing attack. However, 263, attempts, under 13 games, is going to be, highly prevalent, specifically to see if he's going to increase those completions now that he's going to be getting some more wide receivers, hopefully, that will be readily available for his arsenal. He did produce 16 total pass TDs, and so I think that's where you saw some of his PPR production from last year. Davis Mills right now in your redraft leagues, he's going anywhere between 28th, 29th overall quarterback. In your best ball leagues, he's going anywhere between 15th and 17th rounds. And so super flex leagues, you're looking at 6th and 7th rounds. Again, you're looking to see that in your super flex leagues that he's going to be offering kind of your high volume passing attack that you ultimately want to see in PPR format. Obviously he's going to be delivering the ball often and frequently, and hopefully, to Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins and someone else stepping up, perhaps in lieu of the news from John Michie. As training camp unfolds, we're going to kind of see as, kind of clears up and who he kind of wants to target and what kind of relationship he's built with some of these wide receivers. But again, with this coming season, we're looking for Davis Mills to kind of build upon what he did last year, and more specifically towards the end of the season, and see if he can kind of keep that up for this coming season. We're not only looking for Davis Mills to continue to step up for this season, but we're looking to see some of these key additions to the running back position and some re-signed players for the Houston Texans to see how that's going to shake up for their running back group. You're going to have Marlon Mack, being traded over from the Colts. And you're going to have Rex Burkhead being re-signed from last year, extended through this 2022 season. You're going to have Royce Freeman as well. And then the addition of your rookie running back, Dameon Pierce. With Marlon Mack, he does come over from the Indianapolis Colts, but he did have a significant injury in the 2020 season. Marlon Mack, during the 2020 season did suffer an Achilles tear. That was in September, the week 1 against the Jaguars. And after that significant injury, the last kind of 2 years, he's only played roughly between 3 to 5 games. And so in total. And so that brings in a question mark, specifically, coming back from an Achilles tear. Now, when he did, play for the Colts, he did, rush for 28 times at 101 yards. But more specifically with the Colts, they already had kind of Jonathan Taylor. So it was very difficult for him to kind of return after this injury and get on the field with the likes of Jonathan Taylor, starting as the running back for the Colts. And so, with the Texans, we're going to see if, Marlon Mack can continue to increase his production as the attempts start to increase as well. In the 2018 season when he was healthy, Marlon Mack did play 12 games and he rushed for 195 times for 908 yards. He did add 17 catches at 103 yards. And then also in 2019, he played a total of 14 games. He had 247 rushes at 1,091 yards, adding 14 catches, 82 yards. And so those 2 years prior to having that significant injury, he was very productive running back in the NFL, more specifically for the Indianapolis Colts. He had that injury, and then, a certain circumstances have happened, not allowing him, an ideal situation to allow him to return to kind of that full status. So we're going to see, now with the Houston Texans to see if he has an opportunity to rise to the ranks and then return to kind of that previous condition in which he did prior to that significant injury itself. The other key notable running backs for the Houston Texans are going to be Rex Burkhead. They did re-sign him last year. Right now, Rex Burkhead is going in your redraft leagues 48th running back overall right now. In best ball leagues, he's going anywhere between 26th and 28th rounds. He was relatively healthy last year. He did have a hip strain in week 4. He did miss one game from there, and he had a healthy scratches on several other games. He did play a total of 14 games. In those 14 games, he did rush for 122 attempts at 427 yards. Receptions 25 at 186 yards. He did add 3 rush TDs. And so he's going to be, coming in with the addition of Marlon Mack and then also Royce Freeman. Royce Freeman, also was re-signed by the Houston Texans. In your redraft leagues, he's going anywhere between your 133 running back overall. In best ball leagues, he's going also in 25th and 28th rounds overall. And so not too much, fantasy relevancy there. And so we're going to be seeing that, Marlon Mack is going to try and lead this running back group, more specifically coming back, from that significant injury itself. And so we're going to be seeing, now with the likes of, the running back rookie from Florida, Dameon Pierce, those 4 running backs to see if they're going to ultimately leave these Houston Texans and continue to increase their productivity in that running back field for the Texans themselves. The running backs are not going to be the only ones that we're looking for production for the Texans. The wide receiver group is we're going to be looking to step up and also make some progressions from last year and ultimately lend some support to Davis Mills. With the unfortunate news of John Michie, prayers up to him, and as we mentioned earlier, hopefully he has a speedy recovery. But he's going to be missing the rest of the season, and so that's going to be open the door for some opportunities to step up for this wide receiver group. We know we already have wide receiver one Brandon Cooks. You have Nico Collins to see if his ADP or his production for this year is going to increase, and then we're going to see the likes of Chris Conley and Philip Dorsett to see if they're going to ultimately step up to the plate. But Brandon Cooks, was Davis Mills' favorite wide receiver last year. Right now, Brandon Cooks in your redraft leagues, he's your 16th and 17th wide receiver overall. And in your best ball leagues, he's going anywhere between your 5th and your 6th rounds. And so he was able to stay relatively healthy last year. He did not miss any games. And he, added 2 rushes at 21 yards, but most specifically 90 receptions at 1,037 yards. It was apparent, in the season itself, who Mills was very comfortable with and trusted. And we're looking to see that he continues on, with that relationship, more specifically this year, and builds upon it from last year as well. The other wide receiver that is looking to step up is Nico Collins. Nico Collins, last year added 33 receptions at 446 yards. He did add 1 reception TD. Nico Collins also was able to stay relatively healthy last year. He did miss 3 games, and in those 3 games, he did have a shoulder injury. It was undisclosed. It wasn't very specific as to what transpired, but just enough to cause him to miss, several games because of that. But he was able to come back and stay relatively healthy and finish the season off strong. In your redraft leagues right now, he's your 61st wide receiver overall. And in your best ball leagues, he's going anywhere between your 14th and your 18th rounds. And now with the the news of John Michie, you're starting to see that Nico Collins is starting to rise a little bit in your draft orders. He's going to hopefully add some more support with Brandon Cooks, and becomes ultimately your wide receiver 2 for this team, more specifically. But the other wide receivers that we're looking to see if they're going to step up for the plate for the Texans are Chris Conley and Philip Dorsett. Philip Dorsett was acquired from Seattle last year. He spent some time on several teams last year. And then Chris Conley is in your redraft leagues. He's going kind of 94th overall wide receiver. He did have, 22 receptions at 323 yards. He did stay relatively healthy. He did not miss any games as well. And so we're going to see, those wide receivers and seeing who ultimately steps up during training camp and practice to determine who is going to be Davis Mills' ultimate arsenal kind of going forward. Now, as we continue on, let's get in kind of the last group with the tight ends for the Texans. They are going to be, they did release Jordan Akins. He was traded over to the Giants, but they were going to be having their sophomore tight end, Brevin Jordan. He was a rookie last year. Brevin Jordan, in your redraft leagues, he's going 25th tight end overall. And in best ball leagues, he's kind of going in your 13th and 15th rounds. He is, going to be in his second season with the Texans. He did play a total of 8 games. All the other games were healthy scratches. When playing, he did add 20 receptions, 178 yards, 3 reception TDs. But now, with Jordan Akins, traded over to the Giants, we're going to see if Brevin Jordan can step up now and continue to, add, again, more support to Davis Mills, and continue to add just more value to this Texans teams and continue to add to the offensive production for the Texans themselves. Now, some key acquisitions for your Houston Texans, like we spoke about earlier, was your rookie running back, Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce right now in your redraft leagues, he's going anywhere between your 48th running back overall. And in best ball leagues, he's going anywhere between your 10th and your 13th rounds. there is some buzz around him, trying to see if ultimately he's going to rise up in the ranks in the depth chart for the Houston Texans and add more support to Davis Mills and for the offensive team for the Houston Texans. We're looking to see, with the addition of Dameon Pierce, now with the addition of, some running backs, we're going to see if that ultimately now changes the outlook for the Texans. Now with the addition of Lovie Smith and the offensive coordinator, if they continue to make some positive impact for this coming season. But that's going to be doing it for your Houston Texans. Hopefully that was insightful. We're trying to give you the best information for your upcoming season and draft. We're going to continue on with the AFC South, so make sure that you continue to tune in. That will do it for your First and 15 Fantasy Football Podcast. We're looking into your Houston Texans. On the next episode of Injury Outlook, we're going to be getting into your Jacksonville Jaguars. Hopefully we catch you next time. Make sure you tune in.